Hello, hello. If you're here, comment in the chat. Let's see who we have. Let's give a couple of minutes for people to stream in. How's everyone doing today? So this time I am more prepared. Hi, Lamin. Nice to see you again. Dakju, hello from last week. I'm glad you guys can make it again today. So, Elzo, hey, nice to see you. A lot of familiar faces. Let me just share my window now so see what we have in store for today. I'm kind of excited. Let's see. Have you used? All right, so there goes the poll. Let me know. I want to get, because if you have used Claude Code before, maybe if I get stuck, you can tell me how to get unstuck. But you know what? To be honest, it's not as scary as everyone makes it out to be using the terminal and all of that stuff. It's actually pretty simple to pick up. So I wouldn't worry too much, and I'll walk you through it. All right, that's no's so far. Well, you guys are in for a treat. Let's get started. So this time I'm a little more organized. Last week we were doing our first stream. I was kind of just winging it, but this time, like after going through that experience, I realized how important it is to kind of have an agenda and have a path to go through. So I prepared some slides, and so I wouldn't forget important things that I wanted to say. So in this live stream, what we want to do is walk through what is Claude Code, how to set it up, go through demos of using it to do AI coding. And then if we have time to also compare it to Cursor and then to do some Q&A. Okay, so that's what we have in store for today. So first off, what is Claude Code? Oh, one more interruption. At any point, if you have questions, just pop it into the chat. I'll pause and I'll answer. If I'm going too fast, let me know. I want to tailor this event to you. If you want to stop me and say, hey, well, what does this do? Let's explore that together. Feel free to do that. It's not a super on the rails presentation. Okay, so first off, I think there's some confusion about Claude Code, especially when I was thinking about it too. This is not this. So if you're using Claude in the browser, there is this little code here, and you can say, hey, let's choose this option or something. And then it's going to give you some advice in the browser, right? That's not what we're talking about. And this is actually even more confusing now because you can use Claude Code in the browser. That's what I discovered yesterday. But that's not this. This is just asking the model for advice. Okay, so that's not what this is. Okay, so what Claude Code is, it's another product that Anthropic offers, and it is agentic AI that can write code and perform tasks for you. I've always been kind of confused by that term, agentic. Well, what does that mean? And I think I've been using it without actually realizing I've been using it. So what agentic means is that it can go do things for you. So compare that to non-agentic. That would be like what we were just doing right here. If you're just asking AI a question and then it just outputs text, maybe it's steps or guidance to tell you how to code something or how to debug something, but that's not agentic. Agentic is it'll actually go and do the things for you. So in that sense, when we were doing AI coding with Cursor, that is also agentic. The difference is that Cursor, the agent in Cursor is limited to the scope of the code editor. So when you're giving commands in here, the agent will, it's going to modify your project. It's going to write your code. It's going to edit your code, but it lives inside here. Unless you're using something like MCP, you're giving your agent permissions to go outside of the code editor. So that's a different story. How Claude Code is different is one of the ways you can run it is through the terminal. So this command line on your Mac, and I'll show you, don't worry about opening this and how to access this. We're going to walk through it later on. Right now, I just want to do some introductions. Hi, Eric. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so we're talking about the difference between agentic AI inside Cursor and inside Claude Code. So one of the ways you can use Claude Code is in terminal. And this terminal, you can do a lot across your entire Mac. So you can create directories, you can modify files, all with written commands like this. So the agent inside here, the Claude Code agent inside terminal, if you're using it inside terminal, it will be able to do a lot more across your Mac and not just limited to that single project, um, as it is inside Cursor. So that's how I understood the difference between that. There's a couple more differences we'll go through, and then we'll also do some comparisons. But that pretty much wraps up what is Claude Code, and I think it's going to become more apparent when we actually demo it and use it. So speaking about using it, how can we use Claude Code? One of the ways is inside the terminal, like we had talked about just now, and that's the way I'm going to be showing you. It's actually not that difficult. There is a little bit of a visual interface that you can use inside the terminal, as you'll see. So that's probably the most common way that I see people using it. There's also two other code editors. So just like how Xcode is an IDE, VS Code is another IDE, JetBrains is another one, and Claude Code comes as an extension or a plugin for both of those development environments. So you can get Claude Code as a kind of like a sidebar, like we have inside Cursor. You have the AI sidebar. You can kind of get that experience inside VS Code and JetBrains. There's also, now this is the confusing part, because now you can use Claude Code in the browser, right? And here is how it works. I just copied this URL so I wouldn't forget it, but it works like this. I found this kind of funny because it's almost like Code with Chris. But essentially what you're doing is, because on the browser, it doesn't have access to your file system and your folders and your code files, it connects to GitHub. So if you're working on your code and on your project, it's on a GitHub repo, then you can execute commands through the browser, telling that Claude Code agent to go into your GitHub repository and do whatever actions you're asking it to do. So that's how Claude Code can be used in the browser. Okay, so far so good. Let's keep going. Now let's talk a little bit about Claude Code versus Cursor. Oh, we talked about this, Cursor being agentic, the difference. Okay, so there's one clear difference that I want to point out, because I thought inside Cursor, when you have a project, let's say, did I get rid of these projects? Let me just try this one. So if you've used Cursor, you'll notice that inside, hold on, let me just make sure things aren't being blocked. Wait, am I not sharing my entire window? How come it seems like you guys can't see my Cursor window right now? Hold on, let me see what I'm sharing. Oh, sorry. I went to share my entire screen. There we go. Okay, so you guys didn't miss anything too important. I only launched this Cursor window once or twice as a demonstration as we were talking through Cursor versus Claude. But what I wanted to show you is inside of a Cursor project, you can switch the model, and you can say, instead of auto, I want to specifically choose this Claude Sonnet model. So what's the difference? Is this Claude Code, right? Because I'm using Claude's models. What's the difference between using cursor and selecting this Claude model versus using actual Claude code, the product inside the terminal? Well, there is a difference because you got to think about it this way. The model, the LLM Sonnet, is the brains. So it is the thinking part. It's not the doing part. It's just the thinking part. So when you choose Sonnet here and you're asking a prompt like, hey, I want to implement local notifications, it will send that to Sonnet and get the reasoning, the plan, the thinking, the master plan from Sonnet. But when it comes back, when Cursor gets those instructions back, it chooses what to do. So the Cursor agent gets those instructions back. It decides which files in your project to modify, how to modify it, and things like that. So that's where the difference lies, because when you use Claude Code, it might also connect to Sonnet and use the same thinking model. But when it gets those instructions back, the Claude Code agent will make different decisions about how to modify the files and how to interpret those instructions it got from the Sonnet model. So for me, I needed to understand that. So I don't know if that's news to you. So that's why there is a difference between using Cursor and using the Sonnet model versus Claude Code, who also uses the Sonnet model. Okay, so is Claude Code better? A lot of people say Claude Code is better. So where the difference is what we just pointed out, the agent that decides how to interpret those instructions from the model and how to carry out the tasks, which files to modify, how to write the code, right? So when people say Claude Code is better, they're referring to the agent being better at maybe carrying out the instructions or maybe being smarter about how to apply those instructions from the thinking model. In my experience of setting up and playing around with Claude Code, I did see a few more benefits. There's definitely a lot less setup steps. In last week's live stream, when we set up Cursor, we had to install a whole bunch of different extensions and plugins. So for Claude Code there, and I'll show you this, we'll set it up. There wasn't any of that. It was very simple to set up. Unfortunately, it is paid only, so that might be a deal breaker for some. So Cursor has a free plan that you can use. For Claude, it's going to be this plan right here. This Pro plan right here. So you can see access Claude Code on the web and in your terminal, and the free plan, unfortunately, doesn't include that. And you'll also see as we go through this stream and I'm showing you things, you're going to see how much limits and tokens using Claude Code is going to eat up. So you can also gauge for $17 USD, how much usage can I get from Claude Code? Yeah, so you'll get a taste of that. And we talked about the agent being better. So when people say Claude Code is better, that's what they're referring to. Okay, so let's talk about how to install Claude Code. This is going to be pretty easy to do. But first, in any case, for us building iOS apps, we need to have Xcode installed. And you also need to have command line tools for Xcode installed. Now, this is often installed for you when you first install Xcode. It's going to pop up a little dialogue asking you, hey, we need to install these additional components. And then when you click install, it asks for your password. I don't know if you remember that. However, if you don't know, you can always just open terminal. And this is where I'll show you how to do that. So if you press Command and space to open up Spotlight, you can search for terminal. You'll also find this app in your applications, I believe. But this is how you open up terminal. And then you're going to paste this command in here, xcode -select space -- install. and it is going to, for me, it's already installed. Otherwise, um, it is going to install it, I believe. You probably already have it installed, I think, from the Xcode installation. But that's literally the only thing you need to make sure you have, and that's solely for building iOS apps. The next thing to do is to visit the Claude Code homepage. And it has just this URL right here, which there's even a copy button. So you tap on that to copy that URL. You shift tab back to, sorry, alt tab back into here. You paste it, and then you install it. So for me, I've already installed it. I don't know what will happen actually. So I did that. It might detect that I've already installed it. But in any case, what it's going to do now is walk through a bunch of instructions. Oh, it might be resetting it up, maybe updating it for me. Yeah, so it's already installed. When I first installed it, I had some yellow text saying setup notes, and it asked me to run a certain command. And I wasn't sure what that command did. Eh, So what I did was I just copied that text into Claude right here, and I asked it, well, what does this do? So that's a great way to actually, here it is, this line. So it was telling me where it installed it, but it wasn't in, I guess, the central directory of commands. But I asked it to explain it to me like I'm 5. So I want to tell you this because this is a very helpful skill in using AI to troubleshoot and understand the errors that you're getting. So if you don't know what ELI 5 means, it means explain it like I'm 5. And so what it's going to do is break it down using really simple language and try to use analogies to tell you exactly what the issue is. And I wanted to understand like what this line of code that it's asking me, this command, sorry, like what is going to do before I just randomly run it. So I think it's a good practice for you to just make sure you understand what's happening before you randomly run any commands. Okay, so after that, Claude Code is installed. Okay, and the first thing you can do is run this command, Claude space dash dash help, just to see what is available for you, what kind of commands are available. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here. I don't think you're going to need any of this stuff right now. Okay. And then following that, you just type in Claude and you follow instructions to log in and set it up. So what's going to happen when you type in Claude? Actually, let me try to make this text even bigger. Sorry for anyone. I know when I'm looking at screens and videos and text is really small, I'm like, curses, why couldn't you make it bigger? Let me try to do that. So just the text, the font size is bigger. Okay, so you type in Claude and you hit enter. And what it's going to do is the first time, so I've already set it up, so it's not going through the same setup steps. But for you, it's going to ask you, let me see if I can remember. It's going to ask you to log in. So that was like the primary step. And it gave me two options. So one was to log into my Claude account that has Pro access, which is the paid plan. Or number two, log into my Claude account, which has API access, which is also like a paid thing, because then you're going to be charged based on API usage instead of the Pro plan, which has, built-in limits. So those are the only two options that I had. There wasn't like a use this for free type of option. So then I picked the first option for Pro. It redirected me. It opened up my browser for me to log in. And then after I logged in, I had a code to paste back into the terminal to finalize that login. Okay, so after you log in and it's confirmed that you're paying for Claude, it's going to ask this question. And I hope it's not going to ask it every time, because the first time I already encountered this. And it's just making sure that this is not the folder where it's going to write all your files, because this is your root user directory, but it's going to instead access all of the, like, your desktop, your documents, your any folders in your file system is under your personal user folder, right? So it's just asking, do you trust this user? Like all the directories beneath it. So I say yes. And here are a couple of things to note. So this is the model it's using, and you can actually change the model. I'll show you how in a second. And this is, I guess, the plan that you're on. This is where I want to show you /commands. So if you hit /, you can see a whole bunch of different instructions that you can give. And they're actually over here. Let me make this a little bigger again. So these are all the different things you can use with Claude Code. Don't worry, the link is in the the presentation. It's right here. Okay, so we did this step. We did Claude. We set it up. We logged in. Now we're ready to use Claude Code finally. So let's try it out. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to show you, this stuff. So we learned how to launch the terminal, right? Open up Spotlight and launch the terminal. We went through Claude Code installation, and I recognize that not everyone may be used to using terminal. So I wanted to go through some Unix commands, or at least tell you where to find this information and what Unix commands are. So let me just terminate this for a second. You can actually get away with not using terminal commands. In my experience, just using Claude Code, playing around with it, you can kind of get away with it. And I'll show you how. But I want to bring it to your attention what Unix commands are, just in case you haven't used terminal. So there is a website that I'll point you to, which lists all these different commands you can do. Now, you don't need to know all of these. You just need to know how to navigate around. So I'll show you some basic ones. These are all commands to navigate around your file system. And there are other commands to create files, but you don't need to know that. So first of all, pwd, what this does is it tells you which directory you're currently in. So I'm in /users/Chris, and ls will list all of the directories in that folder. So these are all the directories inside my Chris folder. Now, if I want to go into, let's say, the desktop, you use cd, which is change directory, space, and then the name of the directory you want to navigate into. So if I do cd space desktop, I'm going into the desktop folder. So now I'm inside that. Let's type in pwd to see where I am. Sure enough, I am user/Chris/desktop. And again, I can use this ls command to list, my desktop is messy, don't judge me. But yeah, you can use ls again to list all the files here. And to navigate back up one directory, you can do cd space ... And now if I do pwd, I'm back up to my Chris directory. And so that's all I wanted to show you. There's also, I haven't used this in a while, but was it cd/ to go, cd space / to go all the way back up. So you can see here, I'm like at the system root. And I can go cd users. Now, if you know the next directory, you can do a full path. And look, if you hit tab, you see what's in that directory. And then I can say, like, I want to navigate in there, pwd, and here I am back in user/Chris. Anyways, that's just a quick primer. And the more you use it, the more you're going to get used to it. Don't worry, you don't need too much of that, if at all. But if you're starting to work inside terminal, you might as well at least know what these are, especially when if you ever get to using GitHub inside the terminal, then this will really come in handy as well. Okay, so let's actually start playing around with Claude Code because we've been just jumping around for a long time. So let's type in Claude and let's go back in. Okay, yes, I trust those files in that directory. And so now I'm in Claude Code. So let's say we want to build an iOS app. That's what we're here for, right? How do we do that? You still need Xcode. So let's create a brand new project. And I'm going to choose iOS app. I'm going to call this CC test 2 because let's change it. Let's do Claude code test. Okay, it doesn't really matter what we choose because I just want to show you how Claude Code works, but I've got Swift UI and Swift. Next, I'm just going to save it on my desktop for easy access. And this is how my desktop gets really, really messy, is that way of thinking. Okay, so inside Claude Code, if we want to modify that project, what we have to do is gate Claude Code into that project directory. Okay, this would also, before I do anything with Claude Code, I want to show you this little window. Maybe I'm going to leave it open. So I'm going to try to go like this. I want to show you how many tokens and things and usage limits it consumes as we're running Claude Code. So let's take a look at the usage. This is my Pro plan, which I'm paying $17 USD a month for. I want to show you what the limits are. So there are two different limits to pay attention to. One is current session. And current session is defined by a 5-hour block. So I guess this is to prevent spikes and to help them even out their power requirements or data requirements or whatever. But within a 5-hour window, you have a certain amount of tokens that you can use. And after 5 hours, it resets and then you can use more. As you can see, when I was running some Claude Code commands, it used up 2% of my weekly limit, but 11% of my current session. So in 2.5 hours, it is going to reset to 0, and then I can use it more. But I do have a higher weekly limit, which resets on Monday. So that's what you get for your paid plan. But let's see how much is consumed as I'm running commands inside Claude Code. So I'm going to try to just leave this little window open while we run the command so maybe we can see like that. Okay. There's much more complex than cursor, huh? Yeah, maybe you know what? It's what you're used to. But I may have contributed to it being more complex because I did show you this Unix stuff. And now that we're using Claude Code, let me show you. You don't actually need to know too much of this. Okay, so don't worry. I kind of scared you guys off with this. So what we've done is we've created the Xcode project, right, inside a directory on my desktop. We've launched Claude on the terminal. So now let's navigate into that directory. So how do we do that? CD for change directory, space. And this is normally where you would navigate to the directory. But here's an easy way to do it. You open up Finder and you just drag that folder into here. You see that? That's like a cheat. And then you just hit enter. Did I hit enter? Enter. Okay. So every single command actually takes up tokens. So this is going to refresh automatically on the right, and you're going to see it being used up, even to do things like that. Okay, so now what would you like to do in this directory? Because this is a fresh project, what we're going to want to do is /init. And what this is going to do is initialize a new Claude markdown file with code-based documentation. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And this document is kind of like your cursor rules. Okay. So it's going to go ahead and create that. And then we can also take a look at what that file looks like once it's finished creating. Now, just like inside Cursor, we have cursor rules, and then we have a requirements document for what we want our app to look like. We're going to have the same thing here. So the /init command that I just ran, it creates that cursor rules equivalent file. Okay, so the terminal is asking, do you want to create the MD file, the Claude MD file? So you can press up and down. You can see how this is kind of like a visual interface. You don't have to purely use commands. So I can, move up and down, and I can select yes. Go ahead. Go ahead. And so it's created this file. Is it? Yeah. So you can see the tokens running up. It's being used up right now. And if we open this file up, we can take a look at what it's done for us. So the nice thing is that it's detected where the app entry point is, where to put files and stuff. Okay, very basic because it doesn't even know what the app is about. But if there's any additional information you want to provide Claude, you can edit this file and you can add it here. Okay, so next up, we do our software requirements document. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time asking you guys what you want to do, like I did last week, and then waiting for AI to create the document. This time I created it beforehand, but I will tell you what I did. So I have a prompt, which I can share with you guys definitely, which is creating an app requirements document. And it's just telling the AI, if I wanted to create a certain type of app, how would I do it? Please break it down into a series of steps so that AI can follow. And the app idea this time is a simple breathing exercise app that lets users tap a button to start a guided breathing session to induce relaxation and calmness. I figure I can use this functionality inside the Daily Parent Affirmations app to help parents calm down when their toddler is throwing spaghetti on the wall, something like that. So I copied and pasted this into Claude, and it gave me this requirements document. I also asked it to put it in Markdown, so that's part of the that's part of the prompt to format in Markdown. And I do that so that I can easily just hit copy and paste it into a text file. Okay, so I hit copy. And then what I do is I open up my text editor. I'm going to paste this in here. And then I'm going to save it. And I'm going to save it inside my project directory. You can see here there's the Claude MD file. I'm going to call this the requirements.md. Just save it in there. All right, so this has, I can walk through it very briefly, a bunch of scenarios, a bunch of features, and building steps. So I will say right now that this is probably not the way you want to build your app, because what did I do here? I didn't provide any instructions on what I wanted. All I provided the AI was a breathing exercise app that lets the user tap a button. And there's that's so vague that you're going to get wildly different results depending on how the model interpreted that instruction. So if you're actually building an app, there's two ways I would recommend going about it. One way is you're actually like you've given it a lot of thought about what screens there's going to be, about what features are going to be on each screen, writing out the user flow, like the use case, sorry, of maybe creating a new account, a use case of like tapping button, doing something. Give it as much detail as possible and be specific. And then providing that here in the app idea section. Another way you can do it actually, if you're more design oriented, is you can design it first. Now, whether that be designing it inside a tool like Figma, or maybe like UX Pilot to use AI to do it, or maybe just scribbling in your notebook. Like I've done that before too. Like you just grab any old notebook like so. These ones have grid lines, so it's a little easier for that purpose. And just start designing it. Take a photo of it on your phone or something like that. And you can use those photos as part of the prompt and ask it to do the requirements document based off of the photos. If the photos are clear enough on the functionality, chances are you probably have to do the photos and some description of what that user flow might be. But the photos will help give more specific requirements. Okay, I know I'm going a little slow, so let's move on. So take a look at this. This was at 11% before. Now it's at 13%. It used up 2% just for doing that. And as I was playing around with this, I realized like in 5 hours, I don't think I can do that much just based on how many tokens it's consuming. And it would be kind of annoying to have to stop and wait a few hours to do it again. But that's why I actually paused when I was testing this out. I didn't want to eat up all my tokens in the window. Then I would have nothing to show you, right? So this is actually where I stopped in my experimentation. And so everything from here on out, we're literally exploring Claude Code together. So let's try this out. Okay, I go on so many segues and tangents, I kind of forget sometimes where I am. We've created the requirements markdown file and we've put it into this folder, right? If I open up this file, you'll see that it contains all of our instructions. So what we do is we just grab this document and we drag it into Claude Code. And we say, I want to build the app according to this. I'll show you one thing. You can press Shift Tab. You see it's changing something down below my prompt window. I don't know if you can read the text, but I'll read it to you. So when you press Shift Tab, you're changing the mode. Okay. So this mode is accept edits on, which means that it's like YOLO mode. It's like just letting the agent do its thing without asking you every single time, do you accept this change? Do you accept this change? Okay. You press Shift Tab again, it's plan mode on. So this is where you might want to ask it to, do some research and plan and just think about it before you actually execute. Initially, I was going to do this, but then as it was thinking and planning, it was eating up all these tokens on my session. And I was like, wow, if you were going to spend all my limit on planning, then it's not going to have any more for doing. And I'm going to have to wait another, 2 hours or 3 hours. So I'm like, okay, for this time, for this demo, I'm not going to do any planning. Let's just roll with it. So I'm going to see what happens. If it's status bar. Would you rather not see the status bar and then suddenly run into an error and be like, why is this not working? Okay, so I don't know how this is going to turn out, but what it's doing is it's actually modifying these files. It's reading the requirements, it's modifying the files, and then what you would do inside Xcode is you would, like after it's done doing its thing, you would test the app on the simulator here. Right? So whereas in Cursor, we had set it up so that we can actually run the app from here and use this as our coding environment. For Claude Code, you're still using Xcode as your, where you're going to test and build things like that. So look, it's making a ton of changes. I think while it's doing this, maybe um, while we're waiting for this, what we can do is try to do the same thing in cursor. Maybe they'll finish at the same time, and then we can compare the results. So let's just do this for fun. Oh, what's going on? Oh, is it done? I guess it was a really simple app. So now it's going to try to build it. Look, there's an option here like, yes, I want to build it, or yes, and don't ever ask me again. Wait, I think it's only for this session. When you say that, I'm not sure because I'm exploring this, but you can have an option like just always build it and don't ask me. I'm going to say yes for that because I do always want it to build it to test, but building it, testing full session flow, and stop button. Look at these tokens just rack up. Build succeeded. Next, polishing the UI, ideating. Okay. It's done. The app is ready to run. You can open it in Xcode. All right. I guess I didn't even have a chance to try this out inside Cursor. But take a look at this. This UI actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's got some gradients. Is the button actually animating? I don't think so. Let me just run it, then we can see. Drum roll. Yes, drum roll. And then I should have launched the simulator before the stream. Now it's going to take a couple of seconds to do. Okay, let me see in my deck what else I wanted to show you guys. Yeah, the usage, keep an eye on usage limits. I actually came across a nice document about how to efficiently prompt Claude. And that was actually here. Under your weekly limit, learn more about usage limits. This was very interesting to read. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, here we go. This was very interesting. How to get the most value out of the Pro plan. I'm actually going to save that link for you. Okay, ask multiple questions at once instead of sending ask multiple questions in one prompt rather than sending them separately. That's going to help you. Don't re-upload files within the same conversation. Like don't re-upload the files in the same conversation. So once you've uploaded it once, it caches it, I suppose. Oh, it remembers the context, so you don't have to re-upload the same file multiple times. Use projects when working on related tasks. When you add documents to the project, they're cached. Yeah, that's like an FYI. I'm going to put that right here. I'll make this slide deck available so there's no bug. Let's see how it turned out. I was just waiting for the simulator to launch. Oh, did it just build it without? Oh, it is launching. That's the status bar. Sorry. I'm on a Mac Mini M1. So what are they at? M4 now? So it's still going. Next time, I'm learning as I stream more, right? Get everything prepared. So next time I'm going to make sure I launch the simulator beforehand so that we can quickly run our apps. Okay, so let's just give that a couple more seconds. And yeah, helpful links. These are the two links I showed you. One was the / commands that you can use inside Claude Code, and one was the Unix commands here. M5, maybe it's time to upgrade. Maybe it's time. I'm a pretty practical person, to be honest, so I usually don't jump on the latest thing unless I absolutely have to. Okay, I don't know if this is actually launching it, so I am going. It just did it. spoke too soon. Okay, you just pulled through because I was going to terminate you. Keep in mind, I also didn't tell it what I wanted to do during the breathing exercise as well. So we don't actually know what it's going to do. Let me see if I can glean anything from looking at this. So we'll put this on the side. Is there any music? What? Oh, I guess all of the logic is in here. Okay, start breathing session. Oh, it just launched. All right, let's try this out. Oh, wow. I'm actually pretty impressed. You guys seeing this? Animation, timer, breathe in, breathe out. Long breaths. Oh, going from M1 to M3. Yeah, the M3s must be cheaper now that M5s are out. Might not be a bad investment to do that. Yeah, so this is what we have. Okay. I'm actually pretty impressed. Given that, I mean, to be fair, that was a pretty simple app. So we used up 5% usage for this simple app. I'm going to quickly try to do the same thing in Cursor because I'm really curious how it's going to look. But while I do that, can you guys type in any questions you might have into the chat? And let's see if we can address some questions as well. I think normally my machine isn't this laggy, but I think it's also because I'm trying to, it's streaming at the same time. So that's why. Okay. All right, so for this, let us, actually, I can just, okay, so I'm going to give it the same instructions, and I'm just going to ask it to build it and see what happens. Oh, let's switch that back to auto. Keep in mind that on Cursor, I believe I am on the free plan right now. So it's actually not using the same thinking model. It's not using Sonnet because I had Sonnet specifically selected and it wasn't allowing me to select it. That would be interesting. If you select Sonnet for both, and then you basically, the difference would be in how the Cursor agent interprets it versus the Claude code agent, and see how the results differ. Let's take a look at some questions. Better value for money. Oh, I think it's definitely okay. So the question is better. Which one's better value for money, Cursor or Claude? Maybe we'll see after Cursor comes out with its version of the app. But my initial thought is that Cursor is definitely the better value because there's a free plan, and you can actually do a lot with it. With Cursor, with Claude, I was actually surprised about how much token usage it ate up by just navigating to different folders and asking it to, generate um, that Claude.md file, that initialization file. But it is unlimited in a sense. Well, no, there is a weekly limit. So weekly limit times 4 is the maximum you can get out of a monthly plan. I'm still curious about how much better the coding is and the results that you get is from Claude Code versus um, Cursor. But if I were to choose a starting point, I think I would choose uh, to start with Cursor for free. How to attach images? Oh yeah, so the question is, how do we attach images to make an app? So you know how inside the terminal I was able to drag the requirements.md file? You can also just drag images. So yeah, if you had images, you would drag the requirements.md file here and drag your images into here at the same time. And then type in, hey, I want to build it according to these requirements, and these mockups is what it's supposed to look like. So yeah, going back to what I was saying, you don't need to know a lot of Unix commands. I showed you guys the pwd, the cd, the navigating around in the terminal just for your information. In terms of terminal commands, the only thing we used was cd space, and then we dragged the folder name into it. Also, so your question was, will Apple fully accept an app built on Cursor or Claude? And the question is yes, because I've launched, there in the App Store, I've launched maybe 4 or 5 apps built entirely with Cursor. And here's one thing to understand is that Apple doesn't care about your code. It cares about how users see your app. So if the app looks broken, and if it functionally is broken, or if it shows like prohibited content, for example, or your metadata doesn't follow their rules, like you don't have a privacy policy, like they care about those things. They care about like the customer or the user facing stuff. Under the hood, like how slow it is or how bad your code is, how inefficient it is, they don't really care about that. The user reviews will take care of, of that, I think. Eric asks, why might some people prefer Claude Code instead of Cursor? Yeah, that's a good question, because as we see, like Claude Code is a paid product, and I can think of a couple of reasons. So one reason is that developers developers who are working full time, they're used to using the terminal. The other thing you can do inside the terminal is you can script things. So, for example, okay, to sum it up, Claude Code in the terminal is a lot more versatile, um, and you can make it do a lot more things. I know that's kind of vague. Like, how do I put this properly? Like, for example, if I wanted to write a script uh, inside here that says, um, I don't know, launch this browser, open this app, do this, do that, and then run this Claude code command to do this. I can script that out. But Cursor being a code editor like that, it doesn't work in that way, right? It is for someone to open up this application and do something in it. So the way you work with Claude Code and Cursor are different. And then there's sorry, I knocked the mic. Now, the other thing is that the Claude Code agent may actually be better than the Cursor agent. So the results that you get may actually be a lot better. That's probably the biggest reason why I would pay for this. did it actually finish? Let's just test if this has finished. Then we can take a look at the difference. Oh, okay. So this is does this build properly? This is the cursor version of the same set of instructions. So I'm going to run it and see what happens. All right. Why else might someone prefer Claude Code? I think it's probably those two would be what I'd say. The results might be better. And I say might because I haven't personally done a lot of testing with both. This is one of the first tests that I'm doing with you guys between Cursor and Claude. The results might be better with Claude, and then the way that you use it through the terminal. So it might integrate better into developers' workflows. All right, so let's try this out. Let's press start breathing. This is the Cursor build version. I gotta say this looks pretty good too. Okay, this is great. Let's vote. Which one do you guys like better? The Cursor one or the Claude one? Oh, I forgot to close this poll. So I'm going to end this poll, start a new one. Oh, you guys can just also comment in, but let me ask the question. Cursor or Claude? Let the viewers speak. Okay, the vote is up. The vote is up. Lamin asks, if we publish the AI app, could we somehow encounter issues with Apple's approval? So I would say that is a no. Like I said, it doesn't care about AI, like whether your code is written by AI or not. But I have seen recently what Apple does care about is if your app is like an exact copy or very, very similar to an existing app, then they won't accept that. They don't want their app store to be flooded by super similar apps. So you might get rejected for that reason. Maybe then you have to add some additional features or make it look different depending on why they rejected you. But as far as I have experienced myself, read other people's experiences, I have not seen any case where Apple will reject your project because the code was generated by AI. Have you? Okay. So the vote is up. Okay. Cursor wins. I agree. My vote goes to Cursor as well in terms of the UI. The functionality is actually the same. And get this, I was using the free Cursor plan, and the model was set on auto. And for Claude, I was using the Pro plan at $17 a month, using the Sonnet model. I mean, this is very surprising to me too. Because like I said, this is the first time I'm doing this head to head. So I think this was really insightful. Oh, man, my mind is blown too because I hear people saying like Claude Code is better, use Claude Code. But based on this one test that we've done here, we kind of like Cursor better and we tend to all agree. Wait, yeah. Someone voted for Claude. One of you guys did. So if you want to explain, feel free to explain. Yes, maybe code quality. That's one thing that we haven't investigated. So that needs further investigation, which actually plays nicely into next week's topic for live stream, which is maintaining AI coded apps. Like how are you meant to maintain and update an app? Because if you want to continue building upon it and grow it and all that stuff, you're gonna have to fix bugs, release updates, excuse me, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I will see if I have some time to take a look at both of the code bases and see how they compare so we can pick that up in the next live stream when we talk about updating and maintaining AI coded apps. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? Our time is nearing an end, but thank you guys for joining again. So happy to see familiar faces from the community. Did anyone experience the outage this morning? This morning when I woke up, I went on the community, went on Claude. Well, I went on Claude first, and it said, you have to unblock something before you can use it. And I thought it was so weird. And then I realized that there was a global Cloudflare outage. Yeah. And then the worst case is the community was down as well. I was like, if if Claude is not going to come back online, I don't know if we can do this live stream. So for, the next hour and a bit, I was debating whether I should reschedule or not. But then I realized there was no way to actually contact you either because the community was down and I didn't have the list of emails of people who had registered for this event. So I was panicking a little bit. But luckily, things resolved itself. Things resolved itself about 45 minutes before this stream. Yeah, it was bad. Worldwide issue. Supabase is down too. Oh man, that's really tough. That's tough. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining, guys and gals. I don't know who's there. Let's just say y'all. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate everyone. I hope to see you in the community and in next week's live stream. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great week. I'll see you later. Replay will be posted as well as the link to the slides. All right. Bye for now.